dog was left alone in a kennel. No food, no water, for days. And when police discovered him, they realized something terrifying. Arianna Jones had not simply disappeared, because people do not leave their pets to suffer like that, unless something has gone horribly wrong. 2 days earlier, Arianna had agreed to meet a man she knew only from social media. It was supposed to be a simple movie night, but after that meeting, Arianna vanished. Her phone led investigators to a remote stretch of desert. Then, days later, cadaver dogs found a shallow grave. And when police looked at the man Arianna had gone to meet, they discovered a series of details that would completely change the direction of the case. A remote desert location, supplies linked to digging, a cleaned vehicle, and a story about 2 unknown attackers. But investigators say the evidence told them something very different. This is the story of Arianna Jones. I'm your host, and this is Shadow Witness. Before we continue, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because in this case, the smallest details may reveal the darkest truth. To understand what happened to Arianna, investigators first had to understand who she was. This is called victimology, and it is one of the first steps detectives often take when trying to reconstruct a victim's final days. Arianna was 21 years old. She was a mother. Her son was only 2 years old. And for much of her childhood, Arianna had experienced instability. She was adopted at the age of 3. She moved between homes. And for years, she was separated from her mother, Sophia. But when Arianna turned 18, the two found their way back to each other. And Arianna began creating a life of her own. She had a young son. She cared for a dog. And according to her mother, she had a simple dream: family, the future, a normal life. There was nothing about Arianna's routine that immediately suggested danger. So detectives focused on the one thing that had recently changed. Arianna had connected with someone online, and then she made a decision that would later become central to the investigation. She agreed to meet that person in real life, for the very first time. On Tuesday, July 7th, a relative contacted Glendale police. Arianna had not been heard from in 2 days. Her last known contact was Sunday, July 5th. Officers went to her apartment to check on her, and almost immediately, they found something that made no sense. Arianna's dog was inside a kennel, alone, without food, without water, and it appeared the animal had been left that way for days. To detectives, this was not a random detail. It was a behavioral inconsistency, something that did not fit Arianna's normal routine. Because if Arianna had simply decided to leave, why would she abandon her dog? Why would she leave him without food or water? And more importantly, why had no one come back? The apartment raised the first serious question in the case. Was Arianna actually missing by choice? Then, a friend gave investigators another piece of the puzzle. Arianna had planned to watch a movie, and she was meeting a man she had only known online. Detectives began reviewing her phone records. They examined surveillance footage, and eventually they identified the man, 24-year-old Domonic Rodolico of Peoria. At that moment, the investigation changed, because Arianna had disappeared after arranging to meet Rodolico, and police now needed to know what happened after they met. The answer appeared to begin in the desert. Arianna's phone was traced to a remote area near Lake Pleasant. The landscape was isolated, rugged, and far from the kind of place where someone might accidentally witness a crime. In criminal investigations, location matters. A crime in a crowded public place can suggest panic or impulsivity, but a remote location can raise another possibility: planning. Because in the desert, there are fewer cameras, fewer witnesses, and fewer people asking questions. According to detectives, Rodolico had visited that same area earlier in the day, before Arianna disappeared. Investigators say this could represent what is known as pre-offense location familiarization. In other words, checking a location before a crime, making sure the area is private, looking for surveillance, understanding the surroundings. And then detectives discovered another detail. Police alleged that Rodolico purchased items associated with digging and burial. Now, on their own, those items do not prove a crime. But detectives were not looking at one detail. They were looking at the timeline, a planned meeting, a remote desert location, supplies linked to digging, and then Arianna disappears. Sometimes investigators say, the truth is hidden in the sequence of events. If you're still with me, comment, I'm still here, because the next discovery would turn this case into a murder investigation. On Saturday, July 11th, cadaver dogs searched the desert, and they found a shallow grave. Human remains were recovered. Formal identification had not yet been confirmed at the time of reporting, but investigators believed they had found Arianna. And then, on that same day, police located Rodolico outside his home. He was cleaning the back of his car. That detail immediately drew attention, because investigators know that vehicles can contain evidence. Blood, soil, fibers, trace material, and police say Rodolico was cleaning the vehicle after Arianna disappeared. There was also another detail, an injury to his hand, an injury that investigators would need explained. Then Rodolico told police what he said had happened. According to his account, he and Arianna had been attacked by two unknown men in the desert. He said the men stabbed Arianna, and he escaped. But investigators had to ask a critical question. Was his story supported by the evidence? Did the scene show signs of two unknown attackers? Did phone records place anyone else at the location? Did surveillance footage reveal another person? And did the evidence found on Rodolico or inside his vehicle match his version of events? According to police, it did not. Investigators said the evidence pointed back to Rodolico. He was arrested and booked on a charge of first-degree murder. He is currently being held on a $2 million bond. But investigators have not publicly established a clear motive. And once again, it is important to state the legal reality. These are allegations. Rodolico has not stood trial. He is presumed innocent unless and until a court finds him guilty. But Arianna's story is also part of a much larger warning. Meeting someone online and seeing them in person is completely normal for millions of people. But the danger can come from the gap between emotional trust and actual knowledge. You may feel like you know someone. You may have spoken to them every day. But have you verified who they really are? That is why safety advocates continue to recommend meeting in public. Telling someone exactly where you are going, sharing who you are meeting, arranging your own transportation, and leaving immediately if something feels wrong. Because sometimes, your instincts recognize danger before you do. But behind all the evidence, behind the police reports, and behind the investigation, there was Arianna, a daughter, a mother, a young woman with plans for her future. Her mother, Sofia Sardenas, refused to stop searching while Arianna was missing. She printed flyers. She searched. She held on to hope. Arianna's childhood had already been difficult. She was adopted at 3. She moved between homes. And for years, she and her mother were separated. But when Arianna turned 18, they found each other again. And Arianna built a life. She became a mother to a 2-year-old boy. According to Sofia, Arianna wanted a family of her own. And Sofia believes that during her daughter's final moments, Arianna was fighting to survive, fighting to get home, fighting to see her son again. But she never made it home. Arianna Jones was more than a case file, more than a headline, and more than the way she died. She was a daughter, a mother, a young woman with a future that was suddenly taken away. And perhaps that is what makes this case so disturbing. Because it began with something so ordinary. A conversation online, a planned movie night, a first meeting, and then silence. If this case affected you, don't just scroll past it. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Shadow Witness for more true crime cases where the smallest details may reveal the biggest truth. Because every victim has a story, and sometimes the truth is buried deeper than anyone